Welcome to Ohio VolleyTalk alongside Meyer Austin. I'm Elliot Scully. Joining us today, the 2023 Division II State Coach of the Year and State Champion, head coach of the St. Francis DeSales Stallions, Andy Phelps. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, guys. Sorry if my voice comes across a little gravelly, but a lot of screaming over the weekend.
Yeah, man, no problem. Ever since I think you guys won the preseason Wittenberg tournament, you've been number one through our polls the whole year. Can you speak to how this team has handled the pressure of being number one all year and still gotten the ultimate goal done?
I think they handled it really well. They're a pretty loose group. Having some adversity in the middle of the year with Hoying getting hurt for a few weeks, kind of forced some of the other kids to work harder, to grind a little bit, and I think that helped almost serve as a positive distraction in our preparation, towards the end of the season.
Absolutely. And you talked about Hoying there, Division II State Player of the Year, allegedly 6'9". He's your setter. How has his development over the past few years impacted the success of this team?
Oh, it's been huge. His work with the Vanguard program out of season has been phenomenal. He's been playing at a very high level, playing with kids from all over, not only the state, but kind of the region of the Midwest, the way Vanguard has kind of reached out with their recruiting. Played with Moeller's middle. So being around kids from other programs that have had, decade of success has kind of motivated him to want to be at his best. And he's had great training and great competition.
Well, you talked about when you lost him in the middle of the season, led to an unfortunate loss. Your only loss in D2 against St. Charles. But then you guys were able to bounce back and have a great weekend at the GCL Challenge. Can you talk about that weekend and the grit of the team to push through that period?
Yeah, we made a couple changes with, right out of the gate when we lost Cam. I thought I had a lineup that would, at least get us through, a couple weeks. And it didn't work against St. Charles at all. So we made a decision to, start playing our freshman setter some and keep everything else the same. And he came in and did a great job in the front row. We had our junior backup setter in the back row. We kind of ran a 5-2, which is a little bit awkward, but we had success with it at the GCL Challenge. And the rest, like I said, it forced the rest of the guys to really evaluate their game and, could they be better defenders? Could they, be better passers? Could they be smarter hitters? Because they weren't going to get the same kind of sets. And could they lead? Because the floor captain was off the floor.
Exactly. And with the return of Horn, you picked up a win over New Albany, solid squad, and a particularly dominant sweep over Mount Vernon. How much did those wins mean for your playoff momentum?
New Albany was just a chance to get Cam back on the floor and see how we could work as a unit, which was important. New Albany was really just solidified in our minds that if we play our best, nobody could beat us. Now, that doesn't mean you're always going to do it every night, but we really had that confidence that if we play like that, we're going to win the D2 title. Now, I don't think we played, that well against St. Vincent St. Mary, but they also played, I thought, lights out. So I think it was a good competition. Our passing broke down a little bit. We weren't able to get our middles involved, but thankfully we still hit pretty efficiently. And we played great defense and put up some solid blocks.
Able to get the job done, right? I think that's probably what matters at the end of the day.
Yep.
Well, you look at the Final Four in Region 5, something you referenced in another interview. It was all CCL members. Is there a mutual sense of pride there with the coaches?
Yes, for sure. Our coaches all talked about it, and we had a little, banter going about the CCL showcase was really what our region turned into. And really, we weren't that surprised. Years past, we had a couple OCC schools that were down in Division II, and that mixed in like Kilbourne and Olentangy Berlin. But with the realignment and them moving up, we felt like our league would be, the top four schools in our region. And it turned out that way.
Looking at your regional final against St. Charles, you were able to pull the sweep, but all three sets were won by the score of 25-20. It was a close battle. How were you able to shut down the Cardinals that day?
So it started, even though every set had the same score, they were all very different. The first set, nobody had more than a 2-point lead, and we were actually down, I would say, most of that set. We struggled a little bit with our ball control, and our offense didn't have a lot of rhythm, but we put up some solid blocks and played pretty good defense. And we ended up streaking from 20 all to win at 25-20. So we scored the last 5 points. The second set, we put a lot of pressure on them. We started serving tougher and getting them out of system and making them predictable. And when you get predictable against us with the size of our block, that allows us to really get some streaks from the service line because we're going to make some plays on the net. And so we got up real big, and then we kind of lost focus, which is not uncommon with my guys. They can do that a little bit, as most high school boys can, I guess. And St. Charles, clawed their way back into it. And the third set, was a closer set, but we were in control about 4 points the whole way. So I think they were all a little different, but serving and passing, always really dictates. And when we were serving aggressively and making them predictable, it made it a lot easier for us to defend.
Now, when you look at the run you guys made at state, and specifically your games at Wittenberg, you did get a little lucky in the sense that you faced the Region 7 champion in the state semifinal, but you still had to face STVM in the state final, and STVM was in the number 2 spot in our polls and many others. Was there a feeling after that regular season matchup against the Irish that you could see them again in the state final?
Yes, we really felt like they were the best team we had played in Division 2, and St. Charles was a close second, we thought. So we knew once we got past St. Charles, we would probably have to face them again. Or, I mean, McNick could have won, obviously, but based on your rankings, of course. But also, we I watch Max Preps, I look at scores, and I watched their film against St. Ignatius, and they had also made a lot of changes since we played them on April 1st. They had diversified their offense quite a bit, and they served a lot harder in the state finals than they did in our gym in April as well.
Well, you talk about that state final matchup. I know watching it, the first set, after having seen you work in the semifinal before it.
Furmalon comes up with it, quick one, bang.
Did you
Up
see
and
that
down,
play?
yes ma'am, Zane Patterson.
Definitely seemed like you were off that first set. You let them get out to a hot start and then eventually took set 1. What did the set 2 huddle sound like?
It really was just, hey, guys, back to basics. Let's do what we know how to do. We have to control our first touch, give Cam some options, and then we have to hit high and deep. And we had I thought, a very good scouting report. I don't know, the guys just kind of lost their minds in that first set, and we're going, against what we had asked them to do, which was surprising because we had an excellent warm up in the Aux gym. We had an excellent warm up, in the main gym. I thought the guys were really loose and clicking. And something just fell flat after announcements. But I try not to get too much information in the huddle. Just break it down, make it basic. Talk about our the research we put in on how we wanted to attack them and do those things. And we came out roaring in the second set, and then lost focus again, and gave up a big lead.
When you look at that state championship, and again, you guys ended up pulling up the victory in 4. First state championship in program history.
2 sets to 1. The Stallions have Evan Oldhouse. He will serve it high, toss, received by Guzman. Shivers to Wydzinski, pushes it over. Furmalon, Hoying, Evan Oldhouse, dug out by Walter. Here is Shivers, back set to Wydzinski. Gabrielli's there with the touch. Now Oldhouse for the state championship, and the Stallions win the 2023 Division II State Championship. Wow!
As the founder of the boys program at DeSales, and after losing in the final back in 2015, how much did it mean for you to finally win it all?
No, it meant a lot for me. I mean, I wanted to set the program up as a championship program. That was the goal all along. And we had worked really hard to do that. It wasn't easy starting, kind of behind from some of the other programs that we have to compete against that have had, teams for a lot longer. And we're not, a very big school. It's not like I can draw a lot of kids from the, club programs and stuff like that. So it's been a grind, but it's been fun. And I had a great group of kids to go out with, and, very talented group of kids to go out with. Every other state tournament we've been into, we've lost to the eventual state champion, whether that's in the semis or the finals, and they were all battles. So when we got lucky and got what I would consider a pretty favorable draw this year, I didn't feel bad about that at all because of the draws I've had in the past were all difficult.
Well, unfortunately, after 15 seasons, you're following the footsteps of Nietzsche Brockman from last year, and you're retiring a state champion. You're passing the job on to one of your assistant coaches. Can you talk about just what led to this decision to retire?
So, lots of things went into it. Again, I've been at it for a long time. 15 years with the boys, 4 with the girls. I'm kind of an entrepreneur, and I sold my business, and I'm walking away from that at the end of the year. and we're going to be empty nesters. So my wife and I, we want a little bit more freedom. And I really felt like Andrea was ready. She's been with me for a long time. She worked in the girls program. She's been with the guys program. She's a teacher in the building. She knows the game probably better than I do, quite honestly. And she runs a great practice. And I just feel like, it's ready for somebody else to be the voice and the face of the program. I'm going to still stick around and help out, but I don't want to have to be here all winter. And do open gyms and all that stuff that the head coach has to do. And the emails. So I'm done with the emails.
There you go. Well, Coach, congratulations on your retirement, and congratulations on being the Division II state champion in the first OHSAA sanctioned year. You guys run a great program. It was awesome seeing your team this year.
Thanks for all you guys did. It was a blast working with you, and thanks for covering the sport and the boys. And hopefully I'll see you around next year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, for our second guest of the day, he was Player of the Year in 2007 and eventually returned back at Moeller to coach. And in his third season as head coach, he's 16-0 in the playoffs and has won 3 state championships.
Jack Carroll to play for the title. Albers near side. Yeoman seals the deal. Moeller has won its 9th.
To serve for the championship. Volley out wide. Bianco has to hustle. Just got to get it over now. Markham. Reneker. Down, and that's it.
Patterson to serve. Severson.
Go outside.
Severson, right side. Dug by Patterson. Outside to Threm. Up in the air. Sullenberger keeps it alive. White side hits it. Unable to control it. And the state champions of 2023 in boys volleyball Division I are the Crusaders of Moeller High School.
Wow, what a comeback for Moeller.
Head coach of the Moeller Crusaders, Lee Meyer. How are you doing, Coach?
Doing well. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Got the heck of a resume now. I already up there with all of the greats in Ohio volleyball coaching history. When we interviewed you the first time this season, you talked about that you weren't really sure what lineup you were going to run, and there were a lot of positional battles that were going on, and that was true throughout the beginning of the season especially. Can you talk about how those positional battles played out?
I mean, we had a lot of talent this year, and not nearly as much depth as we've had in typical seasons of past. So we knew there was going to be a little bit of a challenge with figuring out with the offensive players that we had, how they were going to line up. And we kind of looked at each other as a coaching staff, and we said, well, we got Haggerty, we got Gesselbrock, we've got Patterson, we've got Threm, and we've got some talent that came up from JV last year. And we knew that we probably need to have those 4 guys in our lineup. And then it was a matter of figuring out with the other guys just how that would all play out. And eventually we determined we need to have Will Sauer and Eli Ernst. And then those 2 guys battled it out. And then as the season developed, we had different injuries, we had different things that we had to maintain. And it was just a really challenging season to eventually find the lineup that we kind of played the majority of our postseason with. And I think everyone saw the match this weekend. We even had to switch things up halfway through the championship match.
For sure. Now, you talked about Haggerty, and it's pivotal when you look at the season, especially at the Centerville Elite Eight, which your only loss going into it was against top-ranked St. X. But Haggerty went down in the semifinal against Liberty. You guys lost that match in 4, and then had to reverse sweep Darby to secure 3rd place. Can you talk about your experience at the Elite Eight overall?
Yeah, so we had the special privilege of basically replaying a match from a week and a half earlier and starting off playing Walnut Hills. I still think that team is a phenomenal team, and I don't know how we never dropped a set to that team, honestly. But I do know that in the 6 sets that we played, I don't think we won by a margin of more than about 5 points in any of them. So great competition to start off. And I think playing against Wheatley and Tom Brake will help prepare us for the outsides that we saw later in the tournament in Caden Whiteside, and then both of the outside hitters for Hilliard Darby. We were playing well. I thought we finally got to a rhythm. And then about 20 points into game 2, Haggerty landed weird, might have landed on someone, or just basically had to take himself out. He rolled his ankle really bad. We didn't know if it was a sprain or anything, but we knew he was done for the day. And that, to finally have gotten to a point where we were comfortable with our lineup and then having to rethink the entire thing all over again, really put a strain on the coaching staff and a unique adversity for our varsity team to play through. And we didn't figure it out for the next, 2.5 sets against Liberty. We played tight, we played well, but we ended up dropping the last 3 sets by 3 points each. And then since we were playing well, we kind of stuck it out for the first 2 games of Derby, and the wheels just start to fall off a little bit. And I looked at my coaching staff and I said, we need to change something up. And started game 3, we stuck Patterson back out on the pin, which is something that we had done at the start of his junior year, which allowed Eli Ernst and Sauer to play in the middle, Threm on the outside, Jesselbrock on the opposite. And we managed to reverse sweep Derby, which I took a lot of pride in, because back when I played, we had an unsaid rivalry against Derby back in 2007. So it was nice to, kind of play with a chip on our shoulder and eventually just learn a lot of things through that tournament.
Well, when Haggerty went down, you kind of entered a rough 3-week stretch where in 3 weeks you played 5 set matches. One of those coming at the Jackson Tri, and Jackson ended up beating you in 5. Can you talk about, just the grit of the team to push through that rough period when Haggerty was in there?
Yeah, so I know we played 3 5-set matches in a matter of 24 hours because the Friday before we hosted Elder, and we lost the first 2 sets there, came back and won 5. And then we woke up the next morning, drove up to Beaver Creek. And when we got there, it was maybe game 2 of Beaver Creek versus Jackson, and that went 5. So it's already a long day. And then I think a lot of our guys were just thinking about the experience of last year when we played the Beaver Creek Jackson Tri up at Jackson. Same situation. We played Elder the night before. It was a hard day, experienced a rough loss, and our guys might have been tired, exhausted from Elder the night before. But, I schedule difficult matches for that purpose. You got to play through some adversity. You got to grind it out sometimes, even if you don't win. It was not a fun day. The coaches did not enjoy it. The players did not enjoy it. But looking back on it, that 24-hour period was definitely a pivotal change in how our guys decide to work going forward in their season.
Well, talking about working forward in the season, your playoff run started with wins over Hamilton and Lakota West in 3, and then you had a win over Sycamore, beating them in 3, while you're in the regular season, they took you to 5. You almost lost that game at home. How big was that confidence-wise to take care of that Sycamore team after that tough matchup in the regular season?
Oh, I think actually looking back on our season, I think we played our most flawless match of the entire season against Sycamore. Our guys were locked in from the beginning. We did a quick little scouting report on what they do rotationally, what Owen Walsh does in certain situations, how Charlie, their opposite, blocks and how he's offensive. And it gave us confidence that our guys could execute a game plan. And then the other flip side of that coin is we executed our own game. I thought we served phenomenally that game. All the work that we had done on blocking in the week and a half leading up to that had started to pay off. And we also passed pretty well that match, which are all kind of 3 things that kind of been hit or miss leading up to that point. So to see all 3 of them kind of in sync, working well together, just made our ability on offense and to have transition offense that much easier.
Absolutely. So you follow up that great performance with a victory over the #1 team in the state, the 23-1 St. Xavier Bombers. And it was a pretty interesting match. I was there, and a big victory for you guys too, after previously being swept by them both times in the regular season. What changes did you make in that match that caused you guys to win Region 4?
That's we made some blocking adjustments. We really dialed in the scouting report. We had shot charts, percentages that different setters, or percentages of how St. X likes to distribute their offense, which rotations they like to go to which guys in which situations, so whether they're in system or out of system. But the biggest thing is we knew we had to get them out of system and serve receive. We knew if we could get to the point where they were just isolated to their pins and they couldn't get their middles involved, that we had a better chance of winning that game. We also knew that if we could push for a longer match, I think the favor kind of shifted in our way, just because St. X had been very efficient in their wins, and we weren't. Like you had mentioned, I think we might have had 6 or 7 matches go 5 this year. So we knew it was going to be a battle. We knew it was a team that, it's one of the greatest rivalries in the state, I think, across all sports, and just proud of what our guys went out and did. There was no one athlete that did anything, spectacular. It was a true team effort, and that's something that we really, try to focus on with our varsity team. It's not the best team in the state. Isn't necessarily the team that has the best players. It's the team that plays best as a group of 6. I think we executed a really good team dynamic, a really good team philosophy, and our team systems worked really well that day.
Well, then after that great win, you advanced to the state semifinal, and you played Hudson, who came into the match 24-0, only 3 sets dropped on the year. I think for us, it was definitely the hardest team to anticipate how they were going to end up, because they're 24-0, obviously had a great season, but their most competitive win was probably against Mount Vernon. And then they come out against you in that first set, and it's really competitive at first, and then they go on a late run and end up winning at 25-15. Really not a close game at all. And then it looks like Hudson's the better team, and they may go undefeated through a state championship. And going into set 2, how did you get your team back into it?
Oh, I mean, we came up to Springfield the night before, and I can say without a doubt that everyone, players and coaches, were just anxious to get in the gym that day. And I think we tried not to focus on, the significance of what the first OHSAA tournament was, but if I can't hold my anxiety back and I'm 34, how can I expect that for a group of teenagers to do? And we were just playing really anxious ball that first game. We made a lot of hitting errors, and they did not. We didn't pass very well, which made our offense very easy to read and block and play defense against. And I think we just had to get a game under our belt. I mean, looking back statistically, I think we had 15 errors in a single set, which might have been a season high. And by comparison, Hudson only had 2, maybe 3. So you're giving yourself a huge disadvantage by just the fact that they only had to earn 10 points and we had to earn 22. And and that's just true to how they play volleyball. They have really good ball control. They play great defense. They put up some good offensive numbers, and they do so by not making a lot of errors, which, to beat them, you have to play really good ball. They played a really good first game, and we did not. And I think what I said to my guys is, hey, we just got to trust in each other, and we have to believe that we can do this. They all shook their head, and they just came out with a different mentality in game 2. And I think they start to find their comfort and their composure. And once we kind of got a little early lead, it was just about continuing to play our game from that point forward.
For sure. And you ended up winning that in 4, taking the next 3 sets in that regards. Now, going towards the state championship match, it's the program's 5th straight, and you're facing off against the Liberty Patriots, who beat you in 4 in the Elite Eight. Knowing they were adding a strong pin and Ryan Severson to their lineup, how did you game plan for them?
We actually didn't do any scouting reporting at all. We wanted our guys to just go and play their game. And that just, again, goes to a trust thing. We finessed things as we learned, but the reality is if we had provided a scouting report, it would have been misinformation from the last time we played them. Because we knew that, yes, we played them earlier in the season, but I think they were a better team at the end of the year than when we played them in the Elite. And I think we were a different team than when we played them in the Central League. So it was really just about trying to execute what we can control. We can't control their gameplay. We can't control how well they pass or how aggressively they swing, but we can control our side of the net. That was our focus for that match.
That's actually, it's really interesting to hear. It's interesting that, I don't know, you prepare so well for St. X, probably because you played him twice in the regular season, and then Liberty, it's a different story. That's really cool. So then Liberty comes out, they take set 1, 25-19. It's, probably looking about the same as Hudson, maybe just early game jitters. Then they come and take the second set again, 25-16. Again, really not close. I mean, they're up 2-0. They just won big in the second set, looking to win their first program state championship. And then third set, it's like really, really close. I mean, point for point, I think it was tied 14 times as the stat I saw. You guys ended up clawing back to win it 25-23. And then set 4, I mean, I think I had a lot of faith in Moeller. Like, even when they were up 2-0, I was thinking a reverse sweep in the state championship would just be such a Moeller way to win. But, they're up 20-13. And I looked at the scoreboard and I said to myself, like, that's it. Like, pack your bags, Liberty just won a state championship. Teams don't come back from 2013 and the other team has that much momentum in a state championship. But you guys did it and ended up reverse sweeping them in 5. I mean, can you talk about your experience with the team and the comeback that day?
Oh, I mean, I was nervous when we were down 8-3. I think at that point I called a timeout. And at that point we still had Colin Yox, who played a phenomenal game 3. Because I think the pivotal moment was transitioning from game 2 into game 3. We made a lot of errors. I mean, that's been our devil's advocate all season. We're a very terminal team, but sometimes we play terminal in a good way, and sometimes we play terminal in a bad way. We just had way too many errors at the start of that match. We had service errors, we had attacking errors, we had communication errors. And if we didn't make changes after game 2, we were going to lose in 3. I can say that with confidence. So, I spoke with our coaches, and, leading up to the state tournament, Will Sauer had been having lights out practices, shutting down Patterson, shutting down Eli Ernst. So we knew that was probably a pretty good shift. And at the time, Patterson played lights out for the entire state tournament. But Will Sauer's just a very positive kid. So we did that swap to bring some positive energy to the court. We put Yox in. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's aggressive, but isn't as air prone as Gesselbrock, and he is also a very positive guy. So we tried to infiltrate what seemed like a very serious team in game 1 and 2 to kind of lighten up, go out there, try to have a little bit more fun. And then the last thing we did was we put DMAC into the game just to give Haggerty a chance to just, not have to focus as much on serve receive, and to kind of lighten up his mood a little bit too by giving him a break, a mental break, a physical break. And to the credit of those 3 guys that came in, they executed their jobs almost perfectly, which was just enough to give us a little bit of momentum to win a tight game 2, get us to a game 4. And then when things kind of went downhill pretty quick. I looked back at my coaches. I said, hey, at the very least, the guys that got us here deserve to be on the court. So we made the subs. We put basically our starting lineup back in the court. And after the timeout at 16-8, I just looked at it and said, hey, it's one of two things. You either believe that you can do it and work towards it, or at the very least, if you think this is the last set we're going to play, you're at least going to go down fighting. And I think when given the opportunity to do one or the two of those, we've taught these kids that you're going to fight and be proud of what you accomplished. And I, too, was just as surprised after being down 20-13 to go and outscore a very good Olentangy Liberty by a score of 12-3. I mean, I put that right up in there with being down 8-13 against Beaver Creek in Game 5, or heck, even Olentangy, when we lost 25-9 in Game 4 and came back and won Game 5. A lot of skill, a little bit of luck, and maybe a little bit of grace from God too. So Game 5 was just a battle. It's what you want to see. I don't think there was a gap of more than maybe 2 points that whole set. And 3 points, 11-8, I think was the biggest score gap in that entire set. And hey, we were at a point again where we could have lost that game. We were down 13-12. I called a timeout and I didn't say a single thing. I just looked at my guys. They looked at me. We were all confident. So I just put my, I put my fist up. Everyone came around each other and we just went out and took care of business and finished the game strong.
Absolutely, and it was a great finish as well as you won that fifth set 15-13. Now, I've seen this on social media. I saw it a couple of years ago, saw it last year, and I saw it again this year, that it's a program tradition to get some cheese conies from Skyline after each state championship victory. I'm just wondering, how did that tradition come about?
That came about in 2004. Actually, realistically, it started in 2003. My brother was a senior in 2003. They lost to St. X in the finals, and one of the coaches at the time, he just went out and got cheese conies on his own time and gave it to all the guys and said, "Hey, great season. You should still be proud of what you accomplished." And I think it's tough to swallow that you just lost in the finals, but it's a state championship finals season, and they celebrate it by eating cheese conies. And the following year, 2004, Moeller won state that year, and it happened again, and we won in 2005 and conies for a third time in a row. And at that point, it just became a tradition, and I think it's something that if we didn't do it, the guys would expect it. So we just carry that on, and it's just fun. I mean, I've eaten a lot of cheese conies on a charter bus, so
pretty good accomplishment. So I think what's really incredible about this Moeller program over these past few years, I think a lot of people from an outside perspective might look at Ohio volleyball and say, "Oh, well, you're just waiting for Moeller to win a state championship every year." Like, that's what it is. It's just get through the regular season and then Moeller wins the state championship. It's really not been the case. I mean, I think 2021, you could have made the argument you guys were the favorite going in, but it was pretty even with Elder and St. X across the board. And then 2022, Elder was absolutely the favorite to win it. And this year, St. X was absolutely the favorite to win it, both going 2-0 against you in the regular season. I mean, what do you guys do at Moeller to maybe not be the best team in the regular season, but get your guys to be the best for the postseason?
I'm a process coach. And I think the way I like to explain it is regular season is just an experiment. I mean, you ask any guy on the championship team, it doesn't matter what they did in their regular season. I mean, heck, last year we were 18-6, and our guys were like, "Oh boy, like that was a shaky regular season." And yeah, it was, but it took that challenging 18-6 season with some tough losses to give the guys an experience that prepared them for a state tournament postseason run. So, we test different things. We try different things out. We don't really establish a regular lineup per se until about maybe the last week of the regular season, because at that point you can start to, be a little bit more direct with, hey, great job this regular season. I mean, we have post regular season evaluations and conversations with all our guys. It's like, hey, these are the things you do well. These are the things that we've seen improvement on, and these are the things that right now might be holding you back from the court. And given these circumstances, we think you could be a really good serving sub. So you're probably not going to be in the starting lineup, but in a desperate need, we might look down the bench and say, hey, you're going in, you're going to serve, and you're going to play defense behind it. And then that gives them something to like grasp and take ownership of. And then to the other extreme, it's like, hey, you're a Will Patterson. You've been playing good, but not to your full potential all season. You got to really turn it up if you want to make this happen. So I think that's one thing. And then the other thing we do is, a lot of people think that Moeller probably has like 3 or 4 gyms, and we don't. We have one gym. We share that with our freshman and JV teams all season long, to the point where we have 3 nets set up in the gym. There's a freshman team on one, a JV team on another, and a varsity team on the third. Well, once the postseason comes around, we finally have the privilege of having 3 nets specifically for our varsity guys. And I'm also blessed to have a coaching staff of 12 total guys. And then I hand select some extra guys from our freshman and JV teams to come up and help supplement as coaches for our postseason run. So all of a sudden you go from, 16 guys on the court with 4 coaches to 16 guys on the court and 7 or 8 coaches. You basically have private lessons for the whole postseason, really finessing and fine-tuning blocking skills, passing skills, setter distribution. And it's something our guys look forward to every year, is the opportunity to really refine their skill. And I think that's just a really good recipe for, working on the small things, isolate it, and then bringing it back together and playing sixes at the end of practice to challenge those newfound skills in a competitive 6-on-6 environment. And the last thing that's truthfully really helped us, which these guys don't get enough credit, is the guys that don't start. When we play 6-on-6, they're always playing our starters. They're always pushing them. And something that we like to say is, typically in a championship season, the Moeller starting lineup gets to play against the top 5 team in the state every day in practice. And I think that holds true. I think the guys that pushed our starters every day in practice could have been competitive against a team like St. X. Would that team have won? I don't know. That's conjecture, but they would have been competitive, and they were competitive against Sycamore. When we played Sycamore earlier, we basically finished with our second lineup on the court. So it's just a great accumulation of a lot of small things that build up at the end and finally have a chance to, shine a light. And it's worked really well for us the past 3 years.
You talk about the family, you talk about the coaches, and you're able to coach with your father, Dan Meyer. He helped found Moeller Volleyball back in 1995. How special is it for you to be able to coach with your father and have that connection overall?
It's really special. When I took the job in 2019, preparing for the 2020 season, I knew that having my dad on the coaching staff was important. And that year, I actually asked him to be our freshman assistant coach, because in essence, I'm a younger version of him as a coach. A lot of things that I learned as a coach, I learned from him. I learned from Joe Burke and Greg Euland, and my dad coached those guys and coached with those guys. And in that first year, which ended up being the COVID year, I thought it was really important that we could bookend our program with a consistent message of both skill as well as culture. And then after the season was over, I knew that it was imperative to have him up at the varsity level. No discredit to what he could have done with a freshman team, but I also lost two of my teammates that were coaches in two of my 2007 teammates in the 2020 season into the 2021 season. So I knew having him would just, be a great add. The great thing about Coach Dan, my dad, is there's nothing too small for him, and there's nothing too big. I said, hey, I don't really want to deal with stats at all. I know they're important, but can you just take care of that? And he made all the stat sheets. He organized all the stat sheets. And then he actually had a great student manager this year that tabulated all the stats and worked with my dad on that. And then he's a great agitator. He knows when to ask the right questions, challenge the right moves, or, say, hey, have you thought about this? Or what do you think about this? And to have someone that's both supportive and challenging, I think, is what every head coach needs. But I think for me, having him do that as my dad, and he does that in supporting me as a coach, he also does that in my professional life. He does that in my personal and private life. He challenges me and supports me in ways that a great father does. And the other thing is, he can mentor me, I can mentor these guys, and he can mentor these guys directly. So I think he just exemplifies what being a good coach is, and what being a good father is, and what being a good leader is. And, skills aside, our number one goal in the Moeller volleyball program is to create leaders in society. And he's just a really great example of that. And I'm very proud to call him dad. I'm very proud to call him coach. And I know that this entire program is very blessed to have him every season that I've been the head coach. So it's just really special.
Well, that's awesome. So looking ahead to this next season, you've got a chance to four-peat, which is something that's only been done by Alter in Division II in the early years of the divisional split. Looking at your JV squad and the guys you're pulling up, even though you lose a lot, you also retain a lot. Do you think that you have the guys to make another championship run?
It's a lot of pressure. And I know it's something that these guys want. But there's a big difference between want and what it actually takes to do it. And they know what it takes to do it too. In a lot of cases, we have three guys that have a chance in their high school career to end their career with 4 state championships. But, just like last year going into this year, there's a lot of different variables that go into place. What type of growth is a sophomore going to have as he goes from being 16 to 17? And then you look at other teams that are returning, like Olentangy Liberty is basically returning their entire lineup. And there's other teams that are very young that were equally as challenging this year. Is it something that can be done? Absolutely. But it's not a cakewalk.
Never is.
Being a coach and getting one state final appearance is quite spectacular, but to win 3 in a row, and realistically, I think we'll be the only team that has that. We're the only team that has that opportunity next year. But just with how fast the sport is growing and the skill that we're seeing grow throughout the entire state, I think the days of going back to back is going to be difficult, let alone a three-peat or a four-peat. And I'm actually going to quote another coach that I just respect the heck out of, and that's Sean Tierney. He sent me a really great congratulatory message, and I think it speaks true to what it takes to continually, be at the top. And what he sent was, congratulations on an awesome season and an impressive postseason. The thing about a three-peat in high school is that it indicates more than just a successful class. It's indicative of a successful system. Says a lot about you guys as coaches. Enjoy it and cheers. And, like I said, we try to create a pipeline of skill development, personal development, leadership development as you go from freshman to JV, JV to varsity. And it's a challenge for sure. And I know our juniors that will be seniors next year, they'll be playing an entire year with a huge target on their back. I mean, they did this year. They do just by having Moeller across the back of their jersey. I just hope that these guys next year can put that all aside and play for themselves, because it's not about coaches. It's not about individuals. It's about brotherhood. It's about their team. It's about being leaders. And that's where we find our successes. It just so happens to be that we've also been the best team at the end of the year, and we've won 3 championships in a row. But the things I'm proud of is beyond the volleyball. And, I could talk all day about that, but the reality is yes, I'm proud that we won this year, but I'm more proud about the things that these guys did off the court, in the classroom, and in their community. And I know that they're going to be leaders once they graduate from Moeller High School.
Well, Lee, an incredible season, seriously, and an incredible run as head coach so far. I think we owe you personally a debt of gratitude. We emailed you, and we'd never done an episode before, and you agreed to come on. And 2 college kids on a Zoom call really could have been pretty terrible. And you agreed to come on and give us a chance, gave us a great first episode. And I think what's going to turn out to be a pretty great final episode of the season. So thank you. And thank you to Moeller Volleyball. Congratulations on the 3-peat.
Thank you. It was great to come back on, a great way to kind of acknowledge this team and really the successes of a first OHSAA season across the board. I think it was an exciting year. I watched a whole set of the D2 finals, and it was just as energetic and exciting. And I'm really looking forward to see the sport continue to grow in the 2024 season. And I know that you guys have a huge platform to help promote the sport that we all love. So thank you again to you guys for just giving another venue for our sport to get out there and be publicized.
Thanks again for coming up.
Thank you.
All right, with that, the final episode of the Ohio VolleyTalk season has come to an end. I think when I had the idea for this, it really came out pretty much exactly how I wanted. It was awesome to get so many coaches on, have so many great conversations. Meyer, I think you were the guy I had to have from day one of the project idea. All the stuff you're doing with your sports journalism major just seemed like everything you're doing is creating your own opportunities. So you seem like the perfect guy to come on, and you've done a great job. It's been really awesome working with you.
Thank you, Elliot. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't know how this was going to go. I mean, I know you texted me back in October about this, and I was thinking, it's a pretty good idea. But again, I have a lot of knowledge in a lot of sports that is more than volleyball. So I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to grow my craft with sports journalism, grow my love for volleyball as well, because for me as well, yes, I do have a podcast, but it's also about professional sports teams here in Ohio. So this got me a chance to reconnect with my roots, reconnect with my time back to St. X, and almost see the scene in general in Ohio. So I really appreciated the opportunity. I also appreciate what you guys have been doing as well, tuning in to our podcast. You know, we've been putting out episodes every Friday. We didn't know the amount of people that would be tuning in, following us on Twitter and Instagram. You know, it's great to see this community building in front of our own eyes as it happened. And I think the biggest thing about it, when we went to regional games, when we went to state tournaments, and people would recognize us and say, hey, you're the Ohio VolleyTalk guys, because I've gotten that recognition before at the SPX and the idea of the St. X community. But when I got this idea that it's more than just St. X, it's more than the GCL, it's all about these great teams throughout the state of Ohio, that's when I realized, wow, what a great community this is. What a great Ohio boys volleyball community it is, you know, from the guys who have been sending us DMs for all of the work we've been doing to the guys who came up to us at state. It's been an incredible journey, incredible season as well. And both of us will be back next year for what should also be a great season.
Yeah. OHSAA, man, first season. It was a good one. It's awesome. You know, I watched you since my junior year of high school calling St. X volleyball games. Now we're working together. So it's really great again. And thanks to everyone for all the support. So I guess one final time, this has been Ohio VolleyTalk, and we will catch you next season.